Hello everyone, and welcome to another SkaredCast video with me, Skari, your grateful host. This is Meta Monday Analysis, where I sit down and discuss and chat about Warhammer 40,000 competitive meta. I talk about Patreon questions that are submitted in relation to gaming, rules, a variety of different things. We also sometimes talk about new releases on the show, and it is a show that I do for Patreons every Monday. I was on holiday for the last couple of weeks, and I went to a beautiful place called Nova Scotia in Canada, and it was amazing. So thank you very much for your patience, hanging out, and I'm excited to get these back on the road. I have a huge, crazy week planned. I'm going to be flying out to Vancouver in British Columbia, a province in Ontario, where I will be filming on Thursday with the Play on Tabletop crew. And that's going to be super fun. If anybody doesn't know Play on Tabletop, they are another channel on YouTube that does amazing battle reports and Warhammer content. And I'm really excited to go out there and hang out with them and film. Now, if you didn't catch the live show, no problem. Leave a comment down below and tell me what time works best for you to catch a live show. Because, it'd be nice to have the more people, the better, the merrier. And that's really fun. We also have the chat going on as well. So if anybody is in chat, hello and welcome as well. So I will be going over the questions that were submitted by the patrons and by other people who do Instagram and YouTube and Facebook. And we'll talk about a couple of 40k tournaments and lists that stood out to me over the course of the weekend. And then we'll talk about, the future and stuff like that as well. So don't be shy. Got my official Games Workshop Drukari mug because coffee tastes more delicious in official merchandise. And they didn't pay me to say that. So other than that, really cool. Huge shout out as well to Chris, who just donated a ginormous Eldar army to the channel. Incredible. And Thousand Suns and Death Guard. Like, it's massive. And it was painted by Den of Imagination, which is a crazy cool paint studio. I can't wait to play some games with that stuff. I could go on and on. I haven't been live streaming in a while. I could literally sit here and blabber into the camera for hours. So you're welcome. Maybe I like the sound of my own voice. Maybe that's what it is. Hopefully my phone doesn't die while I do this. Okay, so let's dive into some of the questions. And let's dive into the nitty-gritty. I did want to talk a little bit first about Manny Chima's orc list, because holy crap, does that orc list just destroy stuff. It's 9 buggies that shoot out of line of sight, and then 9 other buggies, and then a bunch of other stuff. It's 18 buggies. And if you see pictures he puts on Instagram of these 18 buggies all crammed into this deployment zone, I find it hard to believe that he gets to maneuver very much in a game. And it seems like that army would be so boring to play. Absolute total boredom. I would rather run barefoot over broken glass than play a list like that. Love you, Manny. Anyway, I just want to say, at least it didn't win, because then everybody would play it. But it just does so well. It just destroys everything. What a mind melt, says the Pale Orc. Yes, it is an absolute mind melt of just an army in general. Super keen to see some of your upcoming battle reports. Not liking the idea of 18 buggies though. Yeah, I look at that and I go, well, I would just move block the buggies and play like I do against knights that are going to table me anyway, and just play the mission. And then use some shard nets and impalers to hold them in combat so they can't move anywhere, and at least win the movement game, even though I won't have an army left at the end of the game. Then again, I am known to be a bit of a chronic optimist when it comes to the game, which means I'm always looking for the solution in every problem instead of the problem in every solution, which does drive some people bonkers when I talk about like the game in that way. And by some people, I mean anybody who just doesn't have a good sense of humor or just wants to be grumpy. Who wants to be grumpy? And this is one of my favorite, and I want to say it is a tangent, and I do apologize. I don't mean to go off on tangents, even though I'm very good at it. Okay, let's dive in. So let's go into the Patreon. I did put a Patreon and the Discord. So there's normally questions on the Discord, there's questions on the Patreon, and I get to kind of go through them and stuff. Also, Hombre Radioactivo finished the next Incubi rendering of one of the Incubi patrons, and I've got like the cool artwork that I get for them on the patron wall. And that's really cool. And so I showed that one off today as well. Archon Eric asks, "Hello, Master Skari." Hello, Eric. Your humble servant. I'm assuming that's you. Better be. Is looking at the new Kill Team edition. Have you played? In any case, what are your thoughts on the Drukhari chance to shed enemies' blood or take new captives back? Of course, I will give my master his 50% share. You better, because then I have to give my 50% share to Vect, or maybe more like 70%, because Vect is never satiated. Okay, so to your question, Kill Team. I haven't played it yet. I'm staring at the Octaros box and the compendium right there. I got it, and then it was like released just before I went on holiday. So I haven't had a chance to really sort of dive into it. And so it hasn't been like I kind of flipped through the compendium and looked at what, maybe I wanted to build an army around or whatever. It might get me to what I need is another set of witches. Like I own 60 witches, but they're all painted in my old paint scheme. And I'm not super excited about having them on the table because they're like, I rush painted them to get them ready for like an apocalypse game. So I didn't really put my heart and soul into the little units. Plus, my new sort of like army that I'm rebuilding has a lot of conversions in it, and like scratch builds and kit bashes. And none of my witches have like kit bashes. Maybe the odd like arm swap or head swap, but I really want to make them really dynamic and things. Kill Team's a great opportunity to do that because it lets you focus on like 20 models. You can really take your time. And of course, bringing my army up to speed to my new paint scheme, which is anybody who's been following the Just Put Paint on It series on Twitch will know I've painted like this raider. And I cannot wait to paint my army in that scheme, but it does take a long time. So that's one of the reasons, on a side note, that I have a whole Primaris Black Templar army that I'm getting commission painted right now in preparation for the Black Templar release, which is really cool. So I'm going to have, well, with the crazy awesome donation to the channel, I'm going to have Eldar, Azuriani, more on the channel. I have Thousand Suns, which I might not play specifically, but I know there's a few local players that will definitely jump on the opportunity to play with the Thousand Suns. So I have like a studio army for them now. Then I've got the Black Templars, which will be really, really useful. I got my Astra Militarum back. Well, not mine, but my dad's old Talarn models, which means I'll get to play them on the channel a couple of times again, because I love the variety. They're really cool. I have the Sisters of Battle, and then I have the Black Templars, which I'm really, really excited about. Like all the imagery and the iconography of the Black Templars in terms of new releases is incredible. Like they captivate me like nobody's business. So I'm very, very excited about playing the Black Templars. And I hope all of you are as well. Why? Because that's how that should be. But thank you for your question, Archon Eric. I feel like Kill Team is like I didn't play the old Kill Team, so when I play this new version, it's going to be with me only knowing this version. And I know a lot of folks have played the old version and have sort of like been critical of this new version coming up, which I'm curious to like if anybody out there watching, if you played the previous version and are looking to play this version, you know, why is there such a like it seems like people have been very tough on this release, the Octeris Kill Team, like the new Kill Team set. So I'm curious, why. So let me know in the comments if you like. Completely and utterly up to you. So then we'll head on over to the Discord as well and get some more questions going, and hopefully that'll spark some more discussion. And if you are watching live right now, you can ask me a question. Put it in the chat, and I'll get to it, because today is like a video that's open to everyone, because it's been a while and I wanted to say hello, let you know I'm still alive. I'm still filming videos and stuff. There is a new battle report that should be coming up tomorrow that I pre-released for the patrons yesterday, and then I'll be doing another one next week, because there's usually a bat rep every week. This coffee is fantastic. Love me a good cup of coffee. Good cup of coffee is the best. Manuel Garrote Rodriguez. Hola, Manuel. ¿Cómo estás? Hi, Skari. Quick question. There wasn't a question after that. It was just a comment. Unless you're taking your time to ask it, Manuel. Pero ahí te espero para que pongas. Ah, ahí está. Where do you see Iron Hands in this meta? They're my favorite legion, and I like to play them. So in terms of Space Marines, Iron Hands, well, to be honest, Iron Hands as a competitive faction have been, I've been seeing them more frequently at tournaments. Especially in the UK, and in Europe, they've sort of like risen to prominence. The Space Marines, and I want to caveat this: most Space Marine armies at a meta competitive 40k level tend to look very similar. Vanguard veterans, dreadnoughts, character support, like added stuff. So whether you're looking at a Deathwatch army, or an Ultramarine army, or a Raven Guard army, or a White Scars army, or a Space Wolf army, or in this case an Iron Hands army, the building blocks tend to be very similar. And that's okay. It means that the Space Marine book has like oomph to it. It means you can compete with the book, which is fantastic. However, it is kind of bland. Like if you play against Space Marines, it's like, okay, how many Volkite Contemptor Dreadnoughts and Redemptors did you bring? 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, look, 6 of them. Like 3 and 3. Well, I didn't see that coming. Wah, wah, wah. Right? And then you have, and then you add in the flavor, right? So with Iron Hands, you get like the durability of the Iron Hands, as well as some really cool stratagems, like making Dreadnoughts characters, and like some cool warlord traits and some really neat relics. And so what you do is you have a good, strong foundation that's already good. So the Dreadnoughts, the Vanguard veterans, that sort of thing, and extrapolate that and just kind of like painted Iron Hands, and then run it with the Iron Hands flavor. The same thing with a Space Wolf list. Like the good Space Wolf lists that you see are very similar. Dreadnoughts, killy characters, Wolfguard with jump packs, which are Vanguard veterans, right? Or you see it with White Scars, or you see it with Ultramarines. Same sort of difference. And so by being Space Marines, they're good, and then Iron Hands have some cool tools. Same with Black Templars, but that's for another thing. They're going to get redone soon. So who knows if they'll change the cool stuff about them, like, Devout Push, which is like my favorite thing in that book. Right? +1 a hit in melee and wounding twice for every 6 to wound. Yeah, exactly, right? So you have like some really cool dynamic interactions that then work off of that like Space Marine framework, right? And that's the cool thing about Space Marines is like a generic framework, and then you can kind of take the core of what works and then add in a little sprinkle of your chapter to make it your playstyle. Like Space Wolves add Cyber Wolves to get like engage in all fronts points easily, and White Scars can put Devastators in a Rhino and move the Rhino and disembark them and do some weird shenanigans with that, right? Or Ultramarines that have, you know, the best dreadnoughts and redeployment, or Raven Guard that can be very aggressive and get in your face really fast, and things like that. So, but all in all, I think they can compete in a nutshell. So Smexon, ooh, unfortunately, oh no, I don't like where this is going. Games Workshop has kind of broken the meta. Admech and Drukhari are way overtuned. I agree. I don't think GW has broken the meta. It's the competitive player base that has broken the meta. Well, Admech and Drukhari are fantastic books. And if you take them in a vacuum and play with them as a fun thing to play, they are really good books because every option is fun and appealing, and you can kind of pick and choose and make cool lists and have some cool concepts and stuff. But then in a competitive setting, people go, "Ooh, this is really good," and then they multiply it, and then they go, "Ooh, this is really good," and then multiply it. So then everything that's fun and like has a cool game interaction gets like cranked up to 11 and then really made efficient, and then you see how it can be so like tuned. So I don't think it's GW's fault for wanting to make a fun book. And then if you look at them at the same level, Drukhari and Admech are pretty decent together. Orcs, Sisters of Battle, even Space Marines, like they can all compete at that top level. We've seen it over and over again at tournaments. The key there is, some of them are a little bit more tuned than the others, right? And it really does depend a lot on, like your on like the player playing the faction more than anything. And you can disagree with me if you like, but if you do, let me know why in the comments. And I agree with a lot of what you're saying. However, I don't think it should detract us from playing the game. I've been playing the game for way too long. I've seen it go through ups and downs, and it gets really crazy at times. But that's kind of like the fun of the game, to be honest. If that's not your cup of tea, then drink coffee instead. Go play a different game. I like how the quote competitive orc lists are at the moment. It's just spamming the best thing and calling it a list. Yeah, that does happen. With any faction, not just orcs. But I do like to see, like, if you look in retrospect, every time you see the competitive development of of a meta list. My voice is really low today. I feel like I could do acting for a movie trailer. Maybe that, or my vocal cords are gonna get shot soon. But like, if you look at early Adeptus Mechanicus list, it was like hordes of vanguards and rangers, like 120 of them. And now they've sort of adapted and gone to more MSU with like infiltrators and rust stalkers, and they're a little bit more aggressive and in your face, right? So I definitely think that the sort of like the way that these factions, and we're going to go through a couple of we are going to go through some of the top events in the Meta Monday today and kind of break down a couple of the lists that we're seeing at a high level. Just kind of like see what's trending basically. And and it's not really a tier system, but we'll be able to see, okay, people are selecting certain elements to put in their army, like orcs. Orcs are a lot of buggies right now, sure. Then there'll be like an FAQ or whatever to kind of help try and balance it, but it's hard to balance a game with like 30 factions in 40k, like super hard. I think Games Workshop, says Manuel, is doing a great job in this edition if you don't take into account the broken Skari combos and all that. Well, yeah, Skari combos, or the fact that Drukhari witches are like ridiculously undercosted for what they do in comparison to other close combat units, or the crazy Succubus of Death. It's like 75 points of absolute murder. But yeah, barring the odd like outlier, that's brought to the forefront a lot because everybody competitively is like, ooh, I like this, and then they use it over and over and over. So you see it a lot. So it becomes very like in your face, right? This is busted. This is broken. It's going to ruin your game. Edition, yeah, the edition is well produced. I would agree with that. Okay, so let's go over some of the Meta Monday questions on the Patreon Discord. Fish Eyes asks, actually, no, Fish Eyes, yeah, Fish Eyes asks, he said, what building blocks would you use to build a Primaris-only Raven Guard list? Primaris-only Raven Guard list. Well, I definitely run a giant unit of aggressors and have a chaplain that can like redeploy them in someone's face, because you can't do it with Centurions anymore, but you can do it with aggressors. With like flame, I would either take flamers, probably flamers, just so you can run up, and if you go first, just like alpha strike the hell out of someone, which would be really fun. I definitely take some suppressors. I'm a big fan of the backfield autocannons. And then like your like intercessors, Blade Guard are always a good choice. With an apothecary, of course, and then a bunch of Redemptor dreadnoughts. Like, why wouldn't you do that? And if you're playing Raven Guard, you could probably do a couple of the Invictor tactical war suits to get up really close and put a lot of pressure. The thing about Raven Guard is, if you play to like go first and then go second, you'll lose. But the key is to make your opponent worried about you going first and then playing to go second anyway. And if you can achieve that, then you're in a good like mental space. You have more control of the game. Especially if you like psyched your opponent out by like putting a bunch of stuff in their face and then going, oh no, and then they get really defensive and you go, I went second, good. I planned to go second. I just wanted you to deploy really conservatively so that later in the game you're all out of position, basically. And I think that's super important. Fish Eyes also asks, what is the Dark Eldar build right now for list countering purposes? Why would I tell you so that you can build a list to counter my favorite faction? But in all seriousness, if you have a pen and paper, can we write this down? The Dark Eldar list tends to be around the Triple Patrol, Cult of Strife, witches, so either one or two succubuses or succubi, with a Triptych Whip and like competitive edge normally. I like Blood Dancer because I'm cool that way. Or a Razor Flail, Dark Lotus Toxin, Precision Blows, right? Combination of those two. One big unit of Blood Brides, or multiple small units of witches, or a couple of big units of witches, just in general. Maybe some Hellions to do actions, like little 5-man units, or a bigger unit to maximize on strats and jump in. So that's like the first attachment, witches. Second detachment, competitively, tends to be a Coven detachment of Dark Techno Monsters, right? Which became infamous after the liquefier guns on all the racks. It's pretty much the liquefier guns, but instead of racks doing it, it's Kronos, which are like little gribbly monsters that are like high toughness, good amount of wounds, and they have a flamer that can be Dark Techno monstered, unlike the liquefier gun that cannot anymore. So you can run, 6 of these big monsters, lots of wounds, they fly, they can resurrect models, they can give rerolls to wounds to everything around it. So 6 of those, 2 units of 3. And then in the HQ slot, normally Drazar, because he can be put in any patrol. I still like the Homunculus better because it gives them toughness +1, like the Kronos. They're called Kronos. But Drazar works just as well. And then you get a third patrol normally a Cabal of some sort. Either Cabal of the Black Heart or Obsidian Rose most frequently, because they benefit the Dark Lances and things like that, the blasters the most. With an Archon, a unit of Trueborn, and then a couple of Mandrake units of Incubi, whatever it is, like close combat stuff, support, and then as many transports as you can fit in. Usually Raiders. Maybe some Venoms, but usually Raiders, like 4 to 6 Raiders. And then you put all the stuff in the Raiders, and you have a couple of Kronos going around murdering stuff, and then sometimes a quarter of the Archon. But that sort of framework is like transports, units inside the transports, lots of anti-tank weapons, and then some like tough heavy hitters like the Kronos or the Incubi that can just like kill stuff, right? And or the witches. And that would be like the iconic 2000 point Drukhari list in a way. Hey, Tegas, what is going on? Thank you for tuning in. Hello, hello. I really like it. So Smexon says, feels like Games Workshop is oblivious to their own rules and the interactions on the table. I doubt it. I think they just come at it from a different angle, which is we're business. We want to sell models, and this is cool. And they don't think this is balanced. They just think this is cool, and that's how they make rules. Yeah. Is this just oversight? Every Drukhari Sisters Admech unit is a blender. I think that's more of a game mechanic for 9th edition. Like they seem to be very keen on making it more like chess, where it's like one unit dedicated to kill another unit will just kill it. Doesn't matter what unit I have versus what unit you have, it's just going to die. So a lot of the new books are very much like that. Admech, if they want to shoot something dead, they can have one big unit, shoot something dead. It's just going to die, right? Whereas Dark Eldar have witches. We want to kill something in combat, you just send a unit of witches. So it's like a trade, And I think that trade war, it makes the game faster, and it also means that it kind of gets shit off the table so that you can play the game faster and things like that. So I like it. It is kind of annoying that codexes take so long to update, because I think most of the old codexes, when they get updated, will have a lot of these mechanics built in, and then they won't feel as sort of like lagging behind, like Astra Militarum or I don't know, Custodies, or right now the bottom Genius Needle Cult. Right, you bring them up to 9th edition power, and then like most of the 9th edition books in the bubble, like if you just play 9th edition codexes against each other, they tend to compete relatively well against each other, like a rock paper scissors version. So I think there's a definite business plan there. However, I've never considered. I don't take it too seriously. I'm playing a fucking game, right? And I collect the models and I like the lore. So it's not that they can't do no wrong. It is frustrating when you play Riptide Wing, 7th edition, Warhammer 40,000. Every single time you go to a tournament and all you have is paper like Raiders and Venoms and you just get tabled. It can be frustrating. But it does create stickativity and toughness to the game. Mentality wise, it's good to get beat up so that you can get some like some real tough skin. Yeah. I hate that it takes away from the thematic nature of the game. I disagree. I think that the game is the most thematic it has been. Like, if you look at the top 10 at most events, it's usually a whole variety of different things. So you're playing as lots of different styles of lists. And secondly, narratively speaking, the game is really fun and really immersive and really thematic. It really depends on who you play against. If you're going to a big tournament, right, then you go expecting competition. So yes, there's going to be the competitive aspect of the game, which is hyper efficiency, well played, looking for points, wanting to win, right? And just kind of like no wiggle room. But if you just want to play a pickup game with your friends, you have to have a conversation with like the levels of what you want to do, right? If you have a conversation, go, hey, I just want to have a thematic game. The game right now is fantastic for thematic games. The amount of like variety in lists and factions and modeling opportunities, like it's more thematic now than it has ever been. I've been playing for a long time. Plus, you've got like the Warhammer Plus stuff, which I've been enjoying a lot. And that's like a 13-year-old me wishing that we had like GW animations and stuff. Oh man. And then I get to watch it every Wednesday. Amazing. I love it. I'm a big fanboy and I've been playing for a long time. So, but I do agree. They could do things, and I don't like going on rants, but they could definitely do things better, like FAQ releases and digital copies of books and the fucking 40k app. Like, how is it that the one I pay for is not better than Battlescribe? Like, come on. Anyway, I could go on there. You can clip that and share it around the world on the internet. Skari getting salty about the apps. Okay, but thank you. So Smexon, I do enjoy the discourse. Thank you for putting a comment out there. It's always good. It's always good to have these discussions and like, but in a positive light. In like a constructive way. How can we fix it? What can we do as a community to it? Shouldn't be our job, but if it's your pastime, you can literally make your pastime enjoyable, right? Brisbane on the Patreon Discord asks, he says, what are your thoughts on the Kronos build at Goonhammer? So we were talking about the Kronos, like, and it's pretty much that build that I just talked about. I'm a big fan of the Kronos. I think they are very, very good. I've been using Kronos with Artisans of the Flesh as my coven, because that -1 damage tends to be incredibly powerful in the current meta. However, the Dark Tech +1 to wound, +1 damage for all the like ranged weapons that it has, it makes them very, very useful. They just kill anything. Even if you're going against the traditional Dreadnought Marine list, those Kronos just getting +1 to wound and -2 AP really, really helps in the Strength 5. So you're wounding most things on 4s, even like vehicles. So you can crack open the transports with like the Kronos, like rhinos or other raiders or things like that, and then charge the stuff inside with all your close combat units. So they fit a very particular role within the Drukhari list. I think it has a lot to do with the durability that they provide, as well as the board control, and then they kind of bridge the gap between Raider, which is like a tank, but it's relatively fragile, and like the squishy infantry. And they kind of give you that tougher anvil style unit as well as doing damage. So they fit a dual role. I think they are like Talos, Kronos, Grotesques, Rax. Like they're an integral part of making a Drukhari army very robust. So, and people are starting to catch on to that. So you're starting to see it more. Not just because they kill stuff, but they're quite durable. Good save, good feel no pains, the ability to heal, buff the units around them, access to a cool stratagem, and resurrect models even, which can throw people way off if they don't know that they do, and then you bring like one of the Kronos back. It's really, really cool. Dermot Liasi says, playing in a Crusade campaign. 8th edition NIDS is smashing everything it hits. Lots of upgrades for free on their units as we use power level. Any tips for Necrons? Dermot, that's awesome. I love to hear that you're playing Crusade. Here at the SkaredCast studio, and like with John the Cron and Rob, Primaris Powerhouse Rob, and myself, and then mini wargaming as well. Love campaigns. I love playing narrative games, but I also love playing competitive. I can do both. And Crusade is really fun. If you haven't played Crusade yet, do yourself a favor. Read over the Crusade rules. They're really basic. Like, they're really, really basic, but they're really fun. I really enjoy them. As for Necron tips, oh boy. In Crusade, Necrons get ridiculous. They are very hard to kill. The thing I can recommend is, like, try and get your agendas for a couple of turns or a couple of games and build up some experience, and then like try and focus on like killing one thing at a time, basically the same as always. Just like focus on one thing and just kill it dead, and then focus on another thing. The rest of their army, like piddly shots and stuff, don't work. Also play larger games. Necrons in Crusade at like small games are very powerful, like 25 power level, 30 power level, especially a beefed up Necron army is like ridiculously hard to kill. So play larger games so you have more stuff to focus on, like a Necron unit to kill it. That would be my recommendation, assuming you wanted tips on how to beat Necrons. If you wanted tips on how to play Necrons, play smaller games. But thank you for your question and comment, Dermot. Iron Legion over on the Patreon Discord asks, how much do you think the Grey Knights and Thousand Suns will change the meta? I think they will have an impact on the meta, like quite an impact. And we might not see it right off the bat. However, like we saw, like this past weekend, we'll get to some of the events that happened this weekend, or some of the lists. Dark Eldar won or were in the top 2 or 3 of a lot of events this weekend, which just shows that, yeah, Dark Eldar are very, very strong. But they hadn't been for a long time. They'd been winning, but they hadn't been winning events. They'd been winning games, not necessarily events. Like they'd get to the top and then would get knocked down. And I think one of the reasons was like Adeptus Mechanicus hit the table, and their build was very much good at just destroying raiders. Lots of chickens, lots of big blocks infantry, and they just like destroyed Dark Eldar. So when they went up against each other at the top, AdMech tended to come out on top. But then, like all these Space Marine Dreadnought lists came out of the woodwork. They had like -1 damage and really tough to kill. And then AdMech had a harder time dealing with that sort of thing. So they've now adapted, or Sisters of Battle, for example, they've now adapted to have like smaller MSU style builds with infiltrators and ruststalkers. But then Dark Eldar seem to do better against that style of build. So like the meta is constantly like weaving up and down like this. So when it comes to your question, how do I think the Grey Knights and or Thousand Suns are going to change the meta? Number one, you're going to need to have some sort of mortal wound mitigation somewhere. And whether that is adding a unit or two in that their job is to sit out in front and just soak up all the mortal wounds and die, then that's one way of doing it. Or having crazy good psychic denial capability like Sisters of Battle. Like I feel like if Grey Knights and Thousand Suns come up and start crushing people, Sisters of Battle, their strengths, like one of their rites of battle is I just deny on a 5+. That is incredibly powerful into Grey Knights and Thousand Suns. So if they start doing well, and then you get a prevalence of Sisters players that kind of want to counter that, then Sisters will come up. So then you'll start seeing maybe more Sisters or more anti-mortal wound armies, right? That have like custom anti-mortal wound mechanics built in, like Black Templars or I know Soulbound from the Drukhari, which is like a custom cabal. I think I got that right. Please correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. And Grey Knights, for example, their whole army concept changed, which I think is very interesting. Like it went from a army of, okay, we're Space Marines, but we like to hide and shoot you from out of line of sight so you can't see us. And then you get close and then we charge in and kill you. To an army that's very much like, I have a bunch of small units and I'm going to MSU you and I'm going to send little units out to their deaths like a Sisters of Battle does and do the trades really well. Because my little army, my little unit gets reroll hits, reroll wounds, and does 2 mortal wounds on a 6 to wound in addition to normal damage. And 20 shots with a Stormbolter. So you can like run in and one little 100-point unit will kill like 200 points. And then you have to kill that 100-point unit. And then they send in another one, kill another 200 points to your army. So they do the trade really well. They're a lot more aggressive, right? Whereas you have like Thousand Suns, and I feel they're more in like that Space Marine level. I feel like they're more in the Space Marine Death Guard level, where it's like they're gonna be good, but they're not like Dark Eldar and Admech good. Whereas Grey Knights, I think, kind of competes at that Sisters of Battle Orc level, which is like tipping the toes of the Drukhari Admech stuff. If you're looking at a tier level there, I haven't done one of those. Maybe I should. Maybe I should do like a Skari does tier levels Tuesday night live or something. Would you watch that? They seem to be popular, you know. Tagus asks another question. Says, "What is the difference between Eldari and Inari, or whatever that other Eldar army is?" Are you talking lore-wise, or are you talking game-wise? So the Inari are like a sub-faction of the Eldar, and there's 3 characters that make up the Inari: a cat lady, who's Ivrain, the Incubi dude guy, bro. That's the Autarch. No, what's his name? The Vizarch. There you go. And the Incarn, which is like the avatar of the god of death of the Eldar. And they just have a different sort of way of playing. Like they're more about combat. They go in, do combat well, whereas Eldar are more about psychic support and stacking buffs on a unit, making it really good, and then shooting you a lot, which is what they tend to do very well. Slash using a lot of psychers. Like Eldar just have some of the best psychic powers in the game. Even now in 9th edition, they still have some of the coolest psychic like trees and psychic abilities. And it's really cool because I have a whole Eldar army now. I'm excited to play with it. It's gonna be so cool. Fraser says there is only Drukhari. That is not true. But I like the sentiment. Back to the Patreon questions. Warboss Rusted Glory asks, I got one. Where do you stand on Stompers in the current meta? Are they good enough yet with that drastic point cut? Stompers, eh? Hashtag save the Stomper. So where do I stand on the Stomper? Well, when it's on the floor. Get it? I had to do a good stretch there. Oh, it's been a while since I've been sitting in this chair for a long time. I love streaming. Streaming is so much fun. Ooh, I almost spilled coffee everywhere. So I think Stompers can be useful. It's just there's other stuff in the orc book that's like 10 times better than a Stomper right now for cheaper. Like you get a Stompers like 600 points. It's like taking a Baneblade. You'll take it because it's fun. People won't expect it. It'll do well at like an RTT, but like you take it to a 5-rounder or a 6-rounder event, most people will just kill it, and then you're 600 points down. Now, because it's a super heavy, and it goes in a super heavy auxiliary detachment or something like that, it will lack any sort of like culture traits that you take. So, you kind of have to rely on other ways to make it like more useful or whatnot. And the reason I'm looking that way, by the way, is because that's where my box with my Baneblade is, and I'm thinking all the stuff that I do when I play with the Baneblade. It's really fun, but it's like I wouldn't say it's competitive, and that's on one side. On the other side, most like tournament tables, you won't be able to move a Stomper. Like it's so big and wide at the base that you'll maybe like deploy it, and then it can't go anywhere because there's like buildings. You know what I mean? And then you can't physically go anywhere. So it'd be very terrain dependent. And that's never a good thing. Because it sucks to kind of show up to an event and be like, and find that you can't play your army because of that, right? Or something like that. But I do like the Stomp. I think they're really, really fun. North of the Wall, also a question on the Patreon Discord, says, do you think the -1 damage coven has viability, and what would you take to support it? Well, I have been talking about the -1 damage coven multiple times on the stream, and I will say that I really like it. I think to be honest, I took it as a sort of like I wanted to troll one of the local Chaos Knight players named Danny. Danny, you listening? Because I went to an RTT before, and he kept on razzing me on the group texting message thingy, where he was like, Skari's just trying to dodge me or whatever, because he went undefeated, but I beat him by a few points, but we didn't play each other. So he said I was dodging him. I was like, fine, I'll make an army of all -1 damage against your knights, because they've got lots of Gatling cannons and stuff, or like the little locks, the lightning locks. They're all 2 damage, so it'd be like cutting out half of his damage capability if I played him, just to like show him a lesson. But we ended up not playing at that event because he got knocked out earlier, so he was dodging me this time. He was scared. But I found in playing it that the value of -1 damage is incredible when combined as well with a 5+ ignore damage that all Coven units have. So putting 2 and 2 together, it made the Talos, the Kronos, and the Racks that I had incredibly durable. More durable than I would have imagined. So I fell in love. Like, I'm really liking it. Cool thing is, it works really nicely in the mirror match, because a lot of Eldar players, or Dark Eldar players, Drukhari players, my apologies, new players, um, Incubi, 2 damage, right? The Kronos with their Dark Tectomonster stuff, 2 damage. Even like a Dark Lance or whatever is like minimum 4 damage, and now all of a sudden it's minimum 3 damage. It's 1 damage for everything else. Drazar goes down to 2 damage. Like the Jin Blade goes down to, what I mean? Like the Triptych Whip is 1 damage. Like all of a sudden, all of these multiple damage things become a lot easier to shrug with that 5+ ignore damage, which then makes it incredibly easy, or a lot easier, to like tip the scale just enough in that mirror match. Then in like against AdMech, if they brought any autocannons, you don't care. Like their Cognis last cannons are now minimum 3 damage, which means you need like almost 2 to 3 last cannon blasts to take out 1 Kronos, right? And so it's crazy. Like the durability goes way up. So I think it's very viable in it. Now, as for what to support it with, witches and Cabal, basically. I've been taking Hemoxites, the upgraded racks, they're very, very useful to have as well to support. But I've been having a combination. I've taken grotesques as well. So you can take a pick, really, like when you want to make something fancy like that. But yeah, thank you for your question. I really appreciate it as well. So we'll go on to some of these events that we had. And now, of course, if you want to look at a lot of these events, if you don't have a Best Coast Pairings app subscription, you can go into 40kstats.com, and you'll literally have Peter the Falcon basically puts up like all the lists and stuff, and like the stats and everything for like all these big events that have been happening, and it's really cool to see. So there were 4 main events that happened this weekend that were anywhere from 28 to 60 players or something like that. There were at least 5 rounds, I believe. Yeah, 28 to 60 players. And we'll kind of go through a couple of the lists that they used here. Okay, so the Summer War had Jay Wood in first place playing Drukhari. Second place, Matt Charles playing Iron Hands, which is funny because we talked about Iron Hands early on in the video. Manny Chima, which we talked about before, with his Orcs, and then Matthew Dugan with his Grey Knights. So top 4, completely different. And it was Grey Knights versus Drukhari for the top. So when you're looking, and this is something that I'm going to recommend, is when you're looking at like the top players at a tournament, take your time and look at the players who ended up in like 4th or 5th that have like the loss on their final game, right? That means that they won, and they only got knocked out right at the end, right? And that is a lot of times more valuable than somebody who lost their first game and then won everything else, because then they played sort of like less caliber, if that makes sense, to get to where they went. Whereas somebody who won, and then lost at the end, like almost had a chance to win it, but then got booted down because of the Swiss pairing system. So if we look at Matthew Dugan's Grey Knights, so Matthew's Grey Knights is a battalion detachment of rapiers, right? He has a Brotherhood chaplain with the Words of Power, which is basically an unyielding anvil, right? And the Gate of Infinity power. And then he has a Grandmaster Nemesis Dread Knight, which they're one of the most, like Dread Knights, like the Dread Knight models, are one of the most improved Grey Knight units. So they get an award for that. And Caldor Drago, because he is incredible still. And then strike squads. Strike squads, small 5-strong troop units that can actually kill stuff now. They have decent amount of attacks. They have 2 wounds each. They're like scary tactical marines, right? So they're actually quite good now. A Purifier squad with some just a little Purifier squad. Then 3 units of interceptors. They're basically jump pack marines. They can teleport. They're the meat and potatoes of the list. They're going to do most of the work. And then another Nemesis Dread Knight with silencer, side cannon, greatsword. So a couple of Dread Knights and a Rhino. Interceptor squads, or Purifier squads, some strike squads, and then your characters. This is a very straightforward Grey Knight list, but it went to almost the top spot. Right, so Grey Knight's coming in hot. And then Jay Wood's Drukhari, which is very similar to kind of like what we've been discussing. Obsidian Rose, Archon, Trueborn, 2 units of Cabalite Warriors with blasters, 2 units of 5 Mandrakes, Blackheart Patrol, this time instead of the Coven, I believe, with another Archon, another Trueborn, more Cabalite Warrior units, 2 of them, 2 units of Incubi, and 6 Raiders with a bunch of upgrades, and then a Cult of Strife detachment with a Succubus, and a unit of 10, which is a unit of 5 Witches. So mainly focused on the Cabal side instead of the Coven. Lots of shooting, lots of close combat ability, and of course, lots of Phantasm grenade launchers. So actually putting a lot of stock in getting a lot of mortal wounds out, which is an interesting way to play Drukhari. But he took the top spot. So congrats to Jay. Well done. Then we had the Norse Hammer Open, who had Rasmus with his Drukhari. Then we had Marius with his Drukhari. Then Tor with his Deathwatch, and then Nicholas with his Custodies. So Drukhari, Deathwatch, Custodies. Now we did talk about the Deathwatch a little bit, so let's kind of see what he brought for the Deathwatch here. But he was running a battalion detachment of Deathwatch with a Librarian, a Primaris Captain, and a Primaris Tech Marine. 4 Proteus kill teams. The Proteus kill teams are essentially like your standard kill team, with some Deathwatch veterans and a sergeant, 2 Vanguard veterans, and some bikers. It's a 10-strong unit. You can combat squad it. The key here is, as long as you have bikers with an infantry model, the bikers gain the infantry keyword, so they can like go through walls, go up floors. So they're Space Marine bikers that have the versatility of infantry. Deathwatch has some really cool shenanigans, so something to keep in mind as well. And then 2 Redemptor Dreadnoughts and 2 Relic Contemptor Dreadnoughts. So 4 Dreadnoughts, 40 kill team Marines with a combination of bikes and shotgun veterans, and then characters to support them. That's a standard, or very standard looking Deathwatch list that's going to give you a run for your money when you play at a tournament. But something to keep in mind, Marines are not going anywhere. We talked about Manichima's orcs, of course, but that's not in that army. And then, of course, Nicholas's Adeptus Custodies list. Now, he went 4th place. Let's take a quick little look at what he ran. I have one of my coaching clients plays Custodies. 2 of them. One of them does. And So it's nice to see Custodies doing well. You can get some inspiration from this sort of stuff. But we have Shadowkeeper's Patrol with a Dawn Eagle Captain jet bike, 3 Custodians, 2 Galatas Dreadnoughts, 2 Telemon Dreadnoughts with Eternal Penitent. Okay, so very aggressive Telemon Dreadnoughts. And then a patrol detachment of Emissaries Imperatus with Trajan, 3 more Guard, a Praetor with the Vexilla Magnifica, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Venatari with the Bucklers, which, by the way, are incredible. Venatari is one of the best units in the book. So that's 4 Dreadnoughts, 6 Jump Pack guys, a Banner, 6 Troop guys, and 2 Heroes. Pretty standard stuff, but did relatively well. So good on him for getting up there. The third event that happened this week was 37 players, Power 9 Games, GT. Well, we had Evan Stump playing Deathwatch, very similar to the list that we saw, and I'll put the link for 40kstats.com in the description down below, so make sure you check that out as well. And I'll put it in the chat. Actually, let's do that right now. Boom, in the chat, so that you can head on over to there if you want to check it out. Of course, after you watch the video, don't go right now. Unless you open it in a different tab, and then you can follow along while I'm talking. Jason McKenzie with his Cult Mechanicus, which is looking at the MSU Cult Mechanicus. We're looking at Rust Stalkers, Infiltrators, and then a couple of large blocks of infantry, but like multiple small units as well. Carlos with Grey Knights, and then Kyle with some Harlequins Azuriani, like waving that flag with Junior. Oh no, that's whoops, wrong event. Well, I was like, wait a second, that looks like the Art of War, folks. That's not the right. I'm not looking at the right event there. Come on. Where do they all go? There we go. Boom. Okay, so Evan Stump Deathwatch, Daniel Olivas with Drukari. Then we had Adam Baker with Imperial Knights in 3rd place. And then Trainer Wolf with Adeptus Sororitas. So, once again, great variety. I don't know what anybody's talking about. 9th edition, best edition ever. Change my mind. I dare you. And then the Goonhammer Open, which was Anthony Vanella's Drukari, Adrian's Adeptus Mechanicus, James Kelling's Drukari, and then TJ Lanigan's Demons / Death Guard, which is like a bunch of flies and some like Plagueburst crawlers to get the Tallyman's tally up. So then you have like a bunch of beasts in Nurgle that do a lot of the work, basically. So it's a very like just straight up Death Guard Nurgle style list, And yeah, okay, TJ, you're up there. Hopefully we've got, I believe in reformation, so I'm excited to see you play clean and do your thing and like make a name for yourself again, but in a positive light. I'm serious. But yeah, that's good. It's nice to see all those armies up there doing some cool stuff. Well, that's it for the events that happened this weekend. And we went through some of the lists, of course, and whatnot that did really well and whatnot. So other than that, if anybody has any other questions or suggestions, now is the time to put them in the chat or put them down in the comments. If you haven't already, please click that like button. And if you like to support what I do on the channel, you can do it multiple ways. Like, share the content, interact with me on social media, and if you'd like to see more of this stuff, you can always support me on Patreon, which the link will be down in the description below. You don't have to, but thank you to the denizens. I get to do this and build more content. There's a variety of cool things that we do on there. Access to the Discord, exclusive videos, pre-release content, and extra cool stuff that we get to do all together as we build an awesome community. Yeah. And that's been really fun. I'm really enjoying it. One of my favorite things we do is list crunch, where Patreon supporters at a certain level can post a list, and I get to discuss it and break it down and review it every Friday. I won't be doing that this week. So this week on Wednesday, stay tuned for like an Instagram story. I'm going to be flying over to Vancouver, British Columbia, and I'm going to be filming on Thursday and in the studio on Friday with the Play on Tabletop crew from Play on Tabletop. And I'm super, super excited about that. We're going to film a game. I'm going to take pictures, behind the scenes stuff. And then maybe on Thursday, JT McDowell and I might have a Drukhari Archon off. We'll find out who the bestest Drukhari Archon of all time is. And once I've defeated you, JT, I will have to defeat Lawrence the Spider. Archon Skari the Blade looks forward to wetting his blade with your blood. Or something like that. Blightling, hey, how's it going? Nice to see you on the live stream. We'll do some, like, if you get a chance to pop in a question, I'll do a couple here at the end. I already did the promo stuff. Now we get for the folks that watched to this point, put the Darkkin in the comments. Yeah, let me know that, that you're watching. I'm also there's actually, you know what? I'm gonna do a giveaway video of some sort. I need to do one. I haven't done one in years, in forever. And there's a bunch of stuff I want to give away. Cool, I like it. Blightling says, do you think with the rise of Psychers within the Grey Knights and Thousand Suns Codex, we will see more throwaway units like Razorwing Flocks from Risen Wolves, etc.? I think you will, but it won't be one wounded models almost ever. Like when you want to try and deal with psychic stuff, you have to use multi-wound models. Mainly for board control. So you need to if you need to move block them or stop them from going anywhere. Like Razorwing Flocks, excellent. 4 wounds for 12 points or whatever it is. Really good value for money. Very cheap, expendable, they fly, they can move block, and they can soak up mortal wounds. Excellent. And then every army will have something that they can use to kind of mitigate it. And then some armies will have you can put, if you're Necrons, you put Scarabs out. Sure, lots of wounds, just soak through them. Biggest thing there, of course, is maybe you're going to start seeing the dynasty of the Silent King that has a 5-up Feel Pain against mortal wounds, right? So you can put a bunch of Scarabs out there, all with like a 5-up Feel Pain, that sort of thing. Or you can do something like, another thing you can do is like sacrifice combat units or things like that to force your opponent to sort of like smite them out of combat or put a lot of damage onto a specific thing like a tank or a vehicle. Because if a Psyker falls back, they tend to not be able to cast psychic powers. I know that there's some ways around it with like Thousand Suns. They've got ways that they can do that, but you can kind of force them to kill certain things. But throwaway units are not just good against psychic armies. Throwaway units are good against everything, right? So use them as much as possible. Move blocking, like charge blocking, contesting objectives, tying stuff up in close combat. There's a variety of things that they're really, really good at. Fraser Flex says, very cool. JT and the boys make some awesome bat reps. I am super honored to go out there and play. So I will be doing an Instagram story. I'll be doing selfies and stuff on Instagram. I've got the link tree, so you can actually follow Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff. It's easy. Just click on the link tree, find the one you want, the Twitch, the YouTube, the Patreon, the Instagram, whatever it is, and get more involved. Giancum says, thank you, my lord. You're welcome. Remember to thank your reroll givers for the rerolls. It's always good to have. Well, other than that, that's it. That's all I have for you today. I've been Skari, your grateful host. Thank you very much for your support. Consider supporting on Patreon. Join the Denizen community today. The links are down below. Don't forget to subscribe. I've been Skari, your grateful host, signing off until next time. Skari out. the Dark Kin. Thank you, Bu and Floyd. Appreciate it. Bye, everybody. Maybe I should do some dancing so you can see that I've got 2 more things you can click on right here. Click on the things.